Hello, my name is Tide Feltz, and I'm a doctoral student at Drexel University. And for the next few minutes, we're going to be talking about religion, philanthropy, and the making of America's corporate-like university. The following is an overview of three phenomena that have impacted higher education in America, both religion and philanthropy, which have in many ways directly contributed to the rise in higher education institutions acting more like businesses or corporations than we saw in the earlier years. Is this a trend, or is this a new way of life for America's nearly 8,000 colleges and universities? You decide. First, we're going to talk about the role of religion in America and higher education. In the beginning, the church created colleges. Historically, colonial colleges in the United States were church-supported, although the colleges accepted public and legislative and even royal grants. They viewed themselves as private foundations. They did not want to be viewed as public institutions since they did not want to give up control of the college. Up until 1819, the governing boards were appointed by the colleges and universities. And tuition and contributions, personal and government, were the primary sources of revenue. The birth of colleges in the United States was that of religion. A brief shunning of religion occurred as many early colleges began to prescribe to prayer, regular church attendance, and theological study. The American and French revolutions changed this, and in many colleges by 1805 were shunned if they followed the religious rules of the past. But it didn't last long. Just as colleges moved far left, the move to the right began in the early part of the 19th century. Religion conservatism began to make its way into colleges and universities. Even Yale University mandated in the 1860s that any student who professes in the disbelief in the divine authority of the Holy Scriptures would no longer be a member of the college. Many colleges required its students to even attend regular chapel services, including Oglethorpe College in Atlanta, Georgia. A separation of church and state within the Constitution. Over time, students interested in intellectual freedom began to move away from the days of chapel and theological study. The place of religion over the next 100 years was a varied one. Again, the separation of church and state prevented many doctrines from being taught in public universities. Like it had done before, religion had another revival in colleges following World War I. When schools began to offer classes in religion and private religion foundations on or near college. Private colleges also became varied, with extreme doctrines on one end, and on other schools created ideologies with a more worldly view. The whole student. As colleges began to look at the whole student because of new ideas around psychology, not having some level of religious offerings would not provide students all the things they needed as a student. And then the counterculture arrived. Nearly the same time, the student unrest of the 1960s and early 70s caused a counterculture where students questioned many things, including religion. It became difficult for any college to demand a level of religious focus. At the same time, though, they were making religion more available, were new efforts to give students classes and opportunities when they were questioning and skeptical about religion. So with religion also came great secular offerings at colleges and universities across the United States. Today, in the United States, religion remains an important aspect of higher education for many Americans. Of the 7,000 or so 7,000 U.S. colleges and universities tracked by the U.S. Department of Education, there are more than 800 degree-granting institutions reporting a religious affiliation. The Department of Education recognizes 50 different religious affiliations, and of all the 800 schools together, these schools represent about 1.5 million enrolled students. In addition to many non-affiliated colleges offer courses and degrees in theology and philosophy. The impact of philanthropy in America's higher education institutions. Philanthropy dates back to the colonial period when colleges were closely tied to religion. Devout donors in England gave money to support missionary work among the American Indians and provide them with a strong Christian education. The 20th century, however, represented large growth in philanthropy. Such names as Rockefeller and Carnegie made significant contributions through established philanthropic foundations and setting a new trend in giving. Another trend that occurred in the early part of the 1900s were alumni finally being tapped for contributions to the alma mater, and nearly all institutions started their own endowment drives. The idea for alumni fundraising dates back to 1890 when Yale University organized annual alumni giving. Yale received a total of $11,000 from its first 385 solicitations. Within 30 years, there were approximately 8,000 alumni, giving almost $500,000 annually. The Great Depression impacted giving because of overall problems in many philanthropic losing to give the money that they had. It was a tough time after 2 world wars and the significant negative effect on endowments and philanthropy. Colleges and universities were forced to look at the federal government for support, and the Council for Financial Aid to Education was formed to encourage private corporations to give to colleges and universities. Some of the companies who were involved, such as General Electric and General Motors, matched their employees to individual alumni funds. In the 1970s and 80s, colleges and universities began to have entire divisions dedicated to raising funds for the institution. My school, the Reynolds School of Journalism, is named for Donald W. Reynolds, whose foundation continues to give substantial amounts of money to the school. Just last year, we remodeled our 15-year-old building with another $8 million grant. Our own development team then goes out and raises money to match the foundation's grant, a requirement of the original money. Even with severe budget cuts over the last 3 years, my school was protected in fear that private support may end if the state were to cut staff and faculty. Another trend over the past few years, and likely to continue, is many colleges and universities having begun billion-dollar campaigns to offset cuts from government. To compare, as previously denoted, many of the endowments of colleges are well into the billions, and the Board of Trustees have a tremendous responsibility managing the school around in such incredible high dollar figures. One of the most critical issues facing higher education is increasing tuition. We can't talk about philanthropy with also talking about ways that students can pay for college. Like the past, philanthropic giving is key to help offset tuition increases and provide respite to less federal and state support of colleges and universities. The National Center for Education Statistics reported just last year that 5 colleges and universities in the United States had endowments over $10 billion, including Harvard, Yale, Stanford, the University of Texas System, and Princeton University. Now that we've learned a little bit about religion and philanthropy, let's talk about higher education becoming more corporate-like. Higher education has greatly changed since its original inception in the United States. Colleges and universities have begun and have undergone many transformations as a result of federal support and increasing student needs. Students are no longer the vessels that come to class to be filled with knowledge. Students today are often viewed as consumers who are looking for a specific type of education to meet their current needs and future goals. Higher education has also grown beyond the church and the local community. Higher education is now a multifaceted arena in which there are many players: trustees, administrators, students, faculty, unions, national associations and organizations, lobbyists, fundraisers, lawyers, etc. To compete successfully in today's higher education market, administrators must be proactive. They must be leaders with the knowledge and skills to work within the dynamic and evolving environment. Moreover, they must be able to identify, hire, and train other key individuals to work in support of higher education. As the demand for higher education continues to increase, the demand for future leaders within and outside of academia will also increase. To provide an example of the recruitment committee, the marketing, the types of committee that I serve on at the University of Nevada, we have a well-developed database of students and we use several marketing tactics to target students, much like corporations do. We buy lists for direct mail, offer forms of tuition discounting to attract ideal students, as well as have different pricing strategies in place to meet the needs from certain geographical areas. Like many corporations, billboards can be found up and down the Interstate 80 corridor through Sacramento, announcing a series of new degrees offered by Drexel University. It was these very billboards that led me to the doctoral program at Drexel. Similar billboards often lead me to find restaurants or large malls or other things to do along Interstate 80. We can't talk about this corporate-like environment without talking about the rise of for-profit education. Like corporations, higher education is starting to feel the impact of supply and demand. The growing gap in the United States between a job market increasingly in needing workers with a specialized college education and the number of young people actually earning diplomas is a problem that appears to cry out for a free market solution. With for-profit education, companies are stepping in to fill that void. It is the for-profit that is not only acting most like a corporation, but may be forcing the not-for-profit higher education institutions to respond with new strategies to compete. Do you have stories to share regarding religion, philanthropy, and the making of a more corporate-like university? I'd love to hear from you. Right here you'll find all of my contact information. You can follow me on Twitter at Todd Felts, find me on YouTube, or friend me on Facebook, or you could simply email me at mfelts@unr.edu. Thank you. This has been Religion, Philanthropy, and the Making of America's Corporate-like University.